Welcome to Co-Pilot Podcasts. Imagine standing on a canoe in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with no GPS, no compass, and no modern instruments. Just you, the stars, and the waves.
And somehow knowing exactly where you are and where you're going.
Today, we're exploring the incredible world of traditional Polynesian wayfinding, how ancient navigators mastered the art of reading nature's signs to cross vast ocean distances.
It's really one of humanity's greatest achievements in navigation and cognitive mapping.
So help me understand, how did these navigators actually find their way across thousands of kilometers of open ocean?
Well, they used an incredibly sophisticated system that combined multiple natural elements. The stars were their primary guide.
Like a celestial GPS?
Exactly. They created what's called a star compass, a mental map dividing the horizon into segments based on where specific stars rise and set.
Wait, so they memorized the entire night sky?
Yes, and not just the night sky. They also tracked the sun's position during the day and the moon at night.
That's incredible. But what about when it was cloudy?
That's where their genius really shows. They could read the ocean swells, the patterns of waves that flow consistently across the Pacific.
So they could actually feel their way across the ocean?
Exactly. They could feel multiple swell patterns simultaneously and use them to maintain their course.
You know what's fascinating? I read that they also used birds as guides.
Yes, birds were crucial indicators. Different species had different flight ranges, so seeing certain birds meant land was nearby.
This is starting to sound less like navigation and more like being a human supercomputer.
That's actually a great comparison. These navigators were essentially living cognitive maps.
Can you tell us about a real example of this in action?
One of the most remarkable examples happened in 1976, when a navigator named Mau Piailug guided the Hokulea canoe from Hawaii to Tahiti.
How far is that journey?
Over 4,200 kilometers of open ocean. And he did it using only traditional navigation methods.
That's mind-blowing. How long did it take?
31 days. And when they arrived in Tahiti, 17,000 people were waiting to greet them.
Why was this journey so significant?
It proved that ancient Polynesians had intentionally explored and settled the Pacific, not just drifted there by accident as some had claimed.
And this was actually a fairly recent journey, right? In the 1970s?
Yes, because by then, much of this traditional knowledge had nearly been lost.
What happened?
Western influence, modernization, and the rise of modern navigation technology had pushed these ancient techniques aside.
But there's been a revival, hasn't there?
Yes, and it's really remarkable. The Polynesian Voyaging Society was founded in 1973 to preserve and teach these traditional methods.
And they're still active today?
Very much so. In fact, they just made history again. Lehua Kamalu became their first woman lead captain and navigator.
That's amazing. How does the training work?
It's incredibly intensive. Apprentice navigators learn to read stars, waves, wind patterns, and bird behaviors.
You know what's interesting? This wasn't just individual knowledge, was it?
No, navigation was deeply embedded in Polynesian society. Each island maintained a guild of navigators who held very high status.
What role did these guilds play?
They were crucial for survival. In times of famine or difficulty, they could trade for aid or help evacuate people to other islands.
So they were like a safety net for the entire community.
Exactly. And the knowledge was passed down through oral tradition, often in the form of songs and chants.
That's fascinating. How did they teach such complex information through songs?
The songs contained detailed information about star positions, seasonal changes, and ocean currents. It was a brilliant way to preserve and transmit knowledge.
And this was all done without any written records?
Well, they did have one interesting tool, stick charts made of sticks and shells that represented swell directions and island positions.
Like a physical map of the ocean currents?
Exactly. These were used more as teaching tools than navigation aids, helping apprentices memorize the patterns.
It's amazing how they turned the ocean into a network of highways that only they could see.
And not just see, feel. They understood the ocean as a living entity with patterns and rhythms.
This seems like more than just navigation. It's a whole different way of seeing the world.
Absolutely. It represents a deep connection between human knowledge and natural systems.
Why is preserving this knowledge so important today?
It's not just about navigation, it's about maintaining cultural identity and our connection to the environment.
And I imagine there are lessons here for modern navigation too?
Definitely. Scientists are studying how these navigators processed multiple environmental inputs to create cognitive maps.
Like how our brains build mental models of space?
Exactly. It's helping us understand both human cognition and how to develop more resilient navigation systems,
That's incredible. Ancient wisdom informing cutting-edge science.
and showing us that sometimes the most sophisticated technology isn't digital, it's neural.
As we wrap up, what do you think is the biggest lesson from these ancient navigators?
I think it's that human potential is far greater than we often imagine. These navigators achieved something remarkable through observation and understanding.
And they did it by working with nature rather than trying to conquer it.
Exactly. They show us that true mastery comes from connection and understanding, not domination.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts.
And remember, sometimes the best way forward is to look up at the stars.
Just like those ancient navigators did, finding their way home across the vast Pacific, one star at a time.